All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Friday, February 28th, the last day of the shortest month of the year. This is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. And we've got a fun episode for you today as we're going to be talking Texas baseball. I know we didn't cover it on yesterday's episode following their shutout win over Incarnate Word. There were other things on the docket that we wanted to cover. We also want to try to keep these episodes a little bit more concise and a little bit quicker. And so we're not keeping too much of your time. But again, we'll primarily be talking Texas baseball, a little bit, maybe some Texas softball as well. But yeah, Jake, some things coming out of the town hall meeting last night that we discussed briefly on our Wednesday's episode, or not last night, but 2 nights ago. On our Thursday episode that we talked about. But anything else of note, aside from him not really, Chris Del Conte not necessarily, saying without saying that Rodney Terry's job is in jeopardy?
Yeah, I feel like if he was going to for sure keep Terry, he definitely would have said it directly.
Correct.
And I feel like I feel like the way Chris Del Conte's probably approaching this situation, based off the little tidbits that we've read from people who are in the know, is he wants to keep Terry one more year to potentially have a better coaching pool next year, because that's what he believes will be the case. But I also think if they just flat out miss the tournament, with the Moody Center still being new, all the other programs doing so well, I think he will feel, I don't know if it's pressure or his own pressure of the expectations he has for every single program of the Texas athletic department to succeed at a high level. I feel like he will feel forced to make a move if they flat out miss the NCAA tournament.
Could there have been a worse year for Rodney Terry to struggle the way he has coaching this team this year? I mean, with the SEC being top of the ranks, putting in almost 10, 12 teams into the March Madness postseason, Texas may be one of those teams that don't make it into the tournament. And, it just it feels as though for this to happen this year for Rodney Terry, there couldn't have been a more poorly timed bad season to have.
He would have rather have had this season last year.
100%.
And last year's season this year.
Yeah.
If you reverse those, he keeps his job.
Right.
Whether or not that's fair, you can sit there and argue about it, but
he wouldn't have been fired last year regardless of the results of what last year brought.
Exactly. The buyout would have been they wouldn't have paid that type of buyout and for Texas basketball. They just wouldn't have, especially with everything that they're doing, renovations. They're doing the suite renovations right now at DKR that are going where the press box was. $10 million per suite, by the way, already sold out for next season, as you can imagine. And so, yeah, it feels like probably CDC feels like he's in between a rock and a hard place, which he kind of is. You don't really want to make this move this year. I think it's still like a $5.5 million buyout, which is fairly substantial, especially in the college basketball world of things. It is definitely not a small buyout. Right. I know football buyouts, some of them have gotten so out of hand, but you also got to remember, like, a $5.5 million buyout would be like top 7, top 5 of football buyouts.
Yeah.
So it's not nothing.
Think about the revenue economically. Think about the revenue that football brings in compared to what basketball brings in. I mean, that is a completely different tax bracket that you're looking at.
Yeah. And so it's a tough situation for Chris Del Conte to be in. Obviously it doesn't, Chris Del Conte is in no way in shape or form in trouble. This is really the only hire that he's made since he became athletic director where it wasn't, I wouldn't call it his hire. It was a hire he was kind of forced to make it for a good reason. They had made the Elite Eight, and that run was awesome. We're biased. We got to be there for the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight games, and that was a lot of fun, but it is the consistent drop in play. You had the Elite Eight year. Last year was very frustrating at times, but ended on I would say, a good note. They made the round of 32. They were competitive against Tennessee, and you felt happy enough with how the season went for the way it ended, at least. But this year has been a unmitigated disaster at this point outside of the A&M game, which was a disaster for an entire half.
Yeah.
And losing to South Carolina was really the cherry on top. Game isn't final as of us recording, but they are losing by double digits to Arkansas right now.
And they're 1-7 when trailing by 10 or more going into
with A&M being that one game.
with A&M being the one game. Yeah.
And,
Which is fun. That was a fun game. We enjoyed it. That was a great time.
It was fun. It's more fun to say that probably the best team in A&M history basketball program still couldn't sweep Texas.
Right.
That's more so the fun side of it. But I know for me, I want to see a change at head coach after the season, which is a shame because I do think it would be better to be able to wait a year. But I don't think Chris Del Conte is going to be patient enough to be okay with thinking, yeah, we're okay with basically throwing away next season because Trey Johnson's going to be gone. You're going to lose a lot of talent from this team. And I don't see why anybody would want to sign to come up and play because every transfer Rodney Terry has brought in, their numbers have been worse at Texas than they were elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know about everyone, but just about every marquee transfer has.
You can go down the list of, and it feels that way. Marcus Carr felt like his numbers from Minnesota dwindled big time once he got to Texas. It just felt that way. I don't know if that's true. I feel like it is, though.
Marcus Carrs were probably up, but that wasn't a complete Rodney. That was
also a Chris Beard. Yeah. So,
so it just to throw away a year with Trey Johnson too. I've said it over and over, but I'm going to keep saying it because he is fun to watch. To make this team not fun to watch when they do have Trey Johnson is impressive, but in a very bad way.
Yeah. All right, Jake, let's go ahead and flip over to the baseball side of things. Baseball shutout Incarnate Word. Yes, we do realize that game happened. What was it? Tuesday night. But we did not cover it on our Thursday episode. And that's, we had other things we wanted to discuss. We knew we had a little bit of a buffer before Friday came around where they will enter the Las Vegas Classic. We can talk about Incarnate Word. We can talk about the upcoming tournament that's coming up. And so anyway, we saved it for today to talk about it. Incarnate Word, Texas shut them out 6-0, scored 1 run in the first inning, and then it was a 1-0 game all the way up until the 7th inning where Texas bats started catching fire a little bit, and it was 2 homers in the 7th. You had a 2-run shot by Galvin, and then that was followed by a solo shot from Mendoza. Also, freshman Jason Flores records his first win of the season, so shout out to the freshman. He pitched 3 innings, allowed 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, 0 runs scored on him. Obviously, Texas had a shutout. So anyway, kind of a great game for Texas to beat an Incarnate Word. And then probably have seen it throughout all of social media. But the shortstop, Jalen Flores, probably the top play of the season so far with his throw in the top of the 5th from going towards third base, heading towards third base on a grounder in the gap, fields it, and then just a turnaround throw all the way to first to get the runner out at first. Great for out number 3 to end the inning.
Damn near out of the infield.
Yeah,
he was close to that out of the dirt. And I mean that was a play you don't see very many shortstops make at the MLB level.
You're right.
That is one where scouts are going to all turn their heads and go, whoa, let's look at this. Let's look at the full body of work from this guy. But that's a first round, very high draft pick level play. And that comes from someone who is very far from a baseball expert, going to start trying to accumulate more baseball knowledge. But I know that is that's going to be a tough play to top.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was the best play of the season so far. Not to say it can't be beat, but it is that so far.
It,
Flores also scored a run. He recorded a hit and he was walked as well. So a stat sheet filler on the batting lineup as well. I think he was fifth, sixth. I think he's fifth on the lineup.
One of the bats that needs to heat up, because what I was going to kind of say on the offensive end, which has kind of been the end that's struggling, which is weird. They were very good, ironically, in that opening weekend, at Globe Life, where they've been terrible. But the back half of the order is struggling. Basically, everyone's batting around 240 or lower, which is not great. And then you have, Winfield, who's one of the last in the order. I need to get the order actually down, but I think you're going to see a lot of shuffling.
You'll see
early in the season, but Winfield only batting 105 right now.
Wow.
And so you got to see the back half of this order start to pick up. If they can get the bats going a little bit more consistently throughout the order, this Texas baseball team has a chance to be, I think, a lot better than a lot of people expected, even including us.
And that is why fielding is so important. Like, the infield play is so important, because if your bats aren't hitting, which that happens in baseball, you go through droughts. It happens at the MLB level. It happens in the big show. Like, it just happens to where sometimes your bats aren't batting, but you have to have the one thing you cannot not have is pitching and infielding. And that's where it looks like this Texas team might be exceeding the expectations that you and I had set, or maybe were expecting going into the season.
Yeah, no, and it's so early in the season still, especially for baseball, because like you said, you go through ebbs and flows hitting. I expect that some of the top of the lineup is going to, I highly doubt Adrian Rodriguez is going to keep up batting over 400 as a freshman throughout the whole season.
He might.
And if so, he's gone.
Yeah.
And so, you expect the bats heat up, but for me, and I know it's incarnate word, but still, the baseball's pitching a shutout against Ole Miss as well. And so I'm very pleased with how much you talked about it in our interview with Mike Harge. How are the weaknesses of previous years going to look under Schloss? How is he going to work on improving those? And the Max Wiener effect, which I can't wait to continue to talk about this year, because you could say in a way that A&M is struggling right now from having less Wiener, while Texas has Max Wiener. And that's making a difference in how the programs are performing earlier in the season.
It's a great way to put it.
A&M with their loss of Wieners, their performance is struggling, while Texas with Max Wiener is their performance is rising compared to last year.
Yeah, and typically A&M they perform better when they have more Wiener, but this year it's differently. So
last year they had Max Wiener, and they made it to their first national championship in like a century. So this year they have less Wiener, and they seem to be losing to Cal Poly and Texas State.
Which I was about to get to. But yeah,
they weighed it for you. You're welcome. Great co-host.
That was great. Appreciate that. And but yeah, the number one team suffers back-to-back losses to Cal Poly and Texas State. Lost 7-3 to Texas State. I did not dive deep into what their box score looked like.
You need to see the picture from Texas State if you haven't.
Oh, so I did the game. I saw that there was he did the
but just his antics even before that.
Oh,
the dude looked like he was tweaking on the mound.
Really?
It was wild. It was like something out of a show. And he did this against Texas when they took care of Tech, because Texas State is a good baseball program, to be clear. But when they beat Texas a couple years in Austin, he had a big picture go viral of him doing the horns down. But he was like talking to himself on the mound, talking crap to all the A&M players when he's striking them out. Go watch a full little 30 to 45 second clip of him kind of performing on the mound, and it's pretty funny.
I saw a screenshot of the game. Was it me, or was Texas A&M wearing were they wearing red, white, and blue jerseys or something? Were they wearing different colors, or was that just a poor screenshot that I saw?
I haven't paid that close of attention to what their stuff looked like in that game. The main thing I saw was just that Texas State pitcher, and then of course, people making fun of
Okay.
A&M,
All right. But anyway,
which by the way, I
have
had
you
a tweet pop off.
have you seen the yeah, you so go into that for a moment, but first, did you see, speaking of like crazy college pitchers, did you see the Georgia pitcher?
Oh, how could you miss that?
Yeah, the Georgia pitcher. Yeah, it was what, the final out of the game, and he checks it at second base, and he turns around and he looks. He goes, he strikes
I'm
out the batter right there. I mean, dude, if you get homered, if you get knocked after doing that, you can never come back from that. So thank God he was able to strike out the batter.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't, that's a
You're
bad
done.
look.
Yeah, you're
But
done.
I college baseball players are fun. I'm just
They're a
finding the
blast.
personalities in college baseball to be a lot of fun to follow. And I'm sure that that's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of teams. And before I dive into this tweet, I'll just say probably not going to be fun for Ole Miss.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Ole
had
Miss
to work that
athletics.
in here.
Yeah, there's a bit of a love triangle going on in Ole Miss that it doesn't end well for Mary Kate and Ashley.
For those who know, they know. And what a story that has been to
That's
follow.
been
And if you
a
don't
great
know,
story.
just
All you have to
just
do
search
is
Ole Miss or
go
Mary
on
Kate.
Ole Miss or Mary Kate, and yeah, you'll get the full story. And there's a little bit of a love triangle, second chances given to dads, sons, girlfriends. I'll leave it at that, and then you can
Could
do the
say
research.
daddy issues.
A little bit of some daddy issues, maybe, but if you've ever seen Mary Kate, you might understand. You might understand
I have no
why
comment.
there's so much why there's so much forgiveness being given from father, son, girlfriend, wife, mom, So anyway, that's been going around. It was the student section where the basketball game. What last Tuesday
I
night?
think it was baseball, and it was Southern. I think it was Southern Miss.
Okay, and they were chanting her name in the stands.
Yeah, and their basketball team has played since then. I need to look it up, but I'm sure it was a road game. I'm sure there were chants going on.
It's gone viral. So
yeah, and so transit. I talked about making fun of A&M. I've actually been, since football season ended, I kind of have not engaged much with a lot of this type of stuff on Twitter because I after the football game, I was like, what's the point in it? They just disappear when they lose to Texas. Like what's the point? And then they're just talking trash a month later after not scoring an offensive touchdown.
Right.
And so it's like, what's the point of the game being played? What's the point of trash talking on social media? But I saw one that I just couldn't. I still just have that little bit in the back of my head that just can't resist whenever there's too good of an opportunity. Yeah, that just raised in the social media era dog in me of trolling.
Yeah.
And it's still there. And it was, granted, I think Texas fans talk too much crap about Cal Poly beating A&M because it's an early season baseball game. It happens in college baseball.
Cal Poly is not a bad baseball program by any means.
They're not good this year.
Okay.
They have like 2 wins, but
one of them
being A&M. But regardless, it's college baseball. It happens from time to time. And Texas State's not a bad team. They actually aren't a bad team as well. But for some reason, someone tried to compare A&M losing to Cal Poly to Texas losing to Cal State Fullerton 2 years ago, mind you. And I was immediately like, Cal State Fullerton is a blue blood. Actually, we just talked about them recently because they're in MLB The Show. Yeah. They are a college baseball blue blood. They've won 4 national titles. And I immediately was like, they've won more national titles in college baseball than all of A&M's major sports have won combined. So I just tweeted that. Just quote tweeted it, tweeted that. And it currently has 45,000 impressions.
That's
on Twitter, 650 likes, 27 retweets, and a whole bunch of posts of A&M fans that also are struggling with having not Max Wiener.
Right.
I'll just how
How many bookmarks do you think?
Only 5 bookmarks,
Okay.
because I think it's A&M fans realizing like it's going to be my grandchildren's grandchildren that are going to have to come up with this bookmark to be able to use it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, because you can't really bring it up. It's just Texas loses a game. The only way you can bring this bookmark back and it actually be anything meaningful is if you pass them. And that ain't happening.
It's going to be a while. Yeah.
So,
all right, Jake.
yeah,
And
it's
hey,
just funny.
Yeah, and speaking of all that too, their basketball program kind of very reminiscent of classic Aggie, as in they're kind of having a end of season collapse right before our eyes, very similar to what we saw in football. Same things happening in basketball. Their best team coined the best Texas A&M basketball team in its program's history by their own fans. Just having a complete meltdown at the end of the season.
Yeah, three in a row. And guess what? Now they have at Florida and home against Auburn. They do finish the year at LSU.
Make it 5 in a row.
But if they lose those 2 games, that will put them at. If they lose these next 2 games, they will be 9-8 in conference play going into the last game.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Now, granted, to be clear, Aggie fans, if you want to come in the comments and be like, well, Texas is terrible at basketball this year. A, yes. B, you still lost a game to them and still couldn't sweep us in a year where you have said it yourself as the best A&M basketball team ever. And this is a terrible Texas team. I would argue one of the worst teams I've had to watch just from a fun factor.
Well, just from sitting down and watching them on my television, I have zero fun, sir, watching.
Or watching them at a phone while drinking at a bar. That's not fun either.
We've gone through that. But all right, Jake, that's going to do it for today's episode. Tomorrow's episode, final episode of the week. Each week we are going to talk NFL draft leading up to the draft, and we will have our rankings of our top 10 linebackers. We did running backs last weekend, so if you want to go back and go with where we started last Saturday, we gave our top 10 running backs, and now we are going to go on the defense side of the ball, give you our top 10 linebackers in this year's upcoming NFL draft. So for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode for all NFL draft talk on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.